The Italian catastrophe. That's what we're going to talk about in the lunchtime video today. Italy is 7 times the size of Greece's economy. Italy is too big for France or Germany to bail out, too big for the United States to bail out. It's like trying to rescue a 500-pound drowning man. You know, he's going to drag you under before you drag him out. And Italy is likely to default. And this will cause unbelievable shockwaves going throughout the country, throughout the world. You know, it's a little bit like a San Francisco or LA earthquake. All the tall buildings come crashing down. And the reason is they were built on a fault where the plates intersect and they moved and the buildings come crashing. It could have been predicted, or the nuclear power plant in Japan, the same thing. And the point is that the euro is built on a fault line. The concept of the euro is that we can have a uniform currency but not uniform budgets. Okay? In other words, we can have one uniform currency but no federal government controlling the economy or the spending or the budgeting. So each country is free to do whatever it wants in the same currency. And the result is a wildly different series of economic and social policies in one country as opposed to the other. Hugely different debt levels. And ultimately, the quake happens. Ultimately, they're not harmonized. They shift, and the whole structure comes crashing down. Why did they do the euro in the first place? Because Germany wanted a market for its products. Germany, which is basically dependent on exports as opposed to the U.S. that is dependent on domestic demand, needed to find a sure way to sell its products. And the problem any rich country has is that if it tries to sell to a poor country, the poor country will devalue its currency and the products of the rich country will be too expensive. So what they did was they straitjacketed Europe, handcuffed them to the euro. So they all have the same currency and they can't devalue and German products are not too expensive. But they didn't stop to control their spending and their tax policies. And the result is that these countries it's like taking a wall that's coming apart and putting on wallpaper. The wallpaper is not going to hold the wall together. It's going to split. And that's exactly what's going on now. And man, the consequences of this are going to be huge. It's going to set Europe, it's going to destroy the euro. I think it's gone. I think Spain, Portugal, Italy, and Greece, and maybe Ireland will all spin off into their own currencies. I think that it really dooms the European Union as anything other than a free trade zone, which is what it really started to be and should become. But the problem is that the American banks are so heavily exposed in that. And fasten your seatbelts for a whole new economic disaster. What's the solution to it? Well, there really isn't any, except stop borrowing money. The United States is so vulnerable to this because we are so much in debt, because our debt is so high, and we need to borrow so much that we get exposed to any global occurrence, a global hiccup. And when it's a tsunami, oh man, do we take it in the chin. That's why we need the fundamental reforms that some of the Republican candidates are pressing. But this Italian crisis is the real deal. Fasten your seatbelts. Oh, and by the way, buy some gold. Now, if that gets you upset, you should also know that my dog is going to survive all of this, Dubs, and he takes you around Washington in the new book that Eileen and I wrote and Clayton Leota illustrated. And what we do is that he goes to each of the monuments in Washington, and we have a cute poem for each one of them. And it's a cute book and makes a good Christmas present.